pet owners of Reddit, what's the most bizarre thing you've seen your pet do? My dog's understanding of the two-window system at fast food drive-thrus is that the person at the first window is a malicious no-food having lying faker a hole, then the person at the second window is a genuinely nice person who has food. She hates the person at the first window. She will be her happy-go-lucky self until we pull up to the first window to pay. As soon as we pull up, she turns her head away and scowls. She refuses to even look at the jerk in the first window. When I pull away, she immediately goes back to being her happy self. My dog is fascinated by worms. He doesn't eat them or anything, but he gets totally hypnotized by their wriggling and can stare at one for literally hours. Usually after he picks up a girthy branch and there are some underneath. So he just stands there with the heavy branch in his mouth for minimum 20 minutes. There's probably something wrong with him, but it's hard to tell because his dog. My oldest boy, standard poodle, and I were out hiking, and I was taking photos, and I glanced over to make sure that he was doing all right, off leash, good boy, and I caught him having some sort of very serious meeting with a little, juvenile, prolly, raccoon. My boy was wagging his tail and chuffing, soft little woof woof huff soof, and the raccoon was on its back legs, holding my dog's nose, and making like squeaky chitter sounds as they gazed at each other intently in the eyes. Then the raccoon just walked away, and my dog just walked back to me like it was nothing. They are clearly secret operatives, meeting through clandestine back channels to make sure that all continues to go well between their species. Edit, wow, kind person, thank you so much for the silver. I showed my good old boy too, now 12 years old, and he gave me a head tilt, the poodle approval sign. My dog knew how to sulk like a 3-year-old. If she felt ignored, she would walk over to a corner, in the room you're in, sit and face the wall, and then mournfully look over her shoulder to make sure you're watching her sulking. Cat brought a frog in and continually tried to trap it in a Tupperware. Didn't injure and didn't want to eat it, just stuff it in a Tupperware. One of my cats, who sadly passed in 2016 at the age of 11, when he was like 1 or 2 years old, went outside of our garden. He was gone for 4 hours and he came back without his collar. About 5 minutes after he came back, he leaves again, and he's gone for another 2 hours. He comes back with his collar in his mouth, and drops it at my mum's feet. One time my cat was sleeping, just snoozing next to me on the couch. I was watching a nature doc, in my home at reasonable volume. There was nothing else going on. Not a sound from the neighbors, no barking dog, just the ceiling fan and the audible chocolate that is David Attenborough's voice. Then my cat goes bananas sandwich. This cat literally jumps like 5 feet in the air from a laying position, does a flailing front flip with all limbs extended outward, dove off of the couch and ran directly into the wall at top speed, knocking himself completely unconscious. I just sat there, mouth agape, with my hand on my chest staring at this poor bastard, wondering what the F in his cat brain malfunctioned to such a staggering degree. Walked over to him, nudged him a bit, considered that he might be dead, and his eyes shoot open and narrow like a horror movie. He scrambles to his feet, completely off balance, and pinball machines off the walls and furniture into the bedroom and under the bed. I finally did manage to coax him out for cuddles and pets, but holy F, I've never seen something so badass in my life. If I ever go to heaven and get to meet God, one of my first questions will be, what on earth was my stupid cat having a nightmare about that caused him to go full on Looney Tunes? I have a very sociable dog who loves playing with other animals outside. But whenever I brought somebody else's dog to my apartment with her, to take care of or just as a playdate, she would play for a very short time, then sit slightly turned from me so she could give me the side eye and keep staring at me with okay, cool, now take it back. If the other dog had to stay for a while and eventually did something my dog disapproved of, Lola gets up on her feet and then deliberately sits giving her back to the other dog. She would not turn around until the problem was fixed. At first I thought it was a coincidence, but when I saw it happen again it cracked me up. I couldn't believe she was throwing me a deal with this nuisance, mother, for I can't even bear to look at this bull-s. My parrot yelling out thank you in my dad's voice every time he hears my front door open. Even though my late father never lived in my house. Even though the bird is in another room and doesn't see the front door open. He just knows from 25 years of having lived with my dad that when the front door opens you say thank you for the delivery. My cat has recently started scooping water with her paw to drink. My grandparents have a massive staircase in the middle of their house. It had a little landing in the middle. We used to bring our dog over to their house because he was best buddies with their dog. Well, one day my dum-dum dog decided that he was going to climb to the landing of the stairs and then jump down on top of their dog. He wasn't chasing anything or whatever, he was just being a jerk. Luckily both dogs were both pretty small, no more than like 25 pounds, so there were no injuries, but I still think about that little moron every time I see that landing. I miss him. Due to my work schedule, I have to get up at 3 a.m., which means bedtime by 8 p.m. If I am not in bed by then, my little shelter cat goes bat-ess. She starts off with inquisitive little meows which turn to full-on yowling, clawing at my legs, and finally, she'll get frustrated and sit on my bed glaring at me with the most stern cat expression you've ever seen. And it isn't even because she wants to go to bed. She waits until she thinks I'm sleeping and then leaves to go do cat stuff. She's pretty weird in general. Her other quirk, which leads me to think she came from a stern family, is that she will not eat anything off the floor. In my experience with other cats, when you drop something it's fair game. Not her. You have to walk over, put it in her bowl, and give her both verbal and physical permission before she'll so much as sniff at it. This one is a bit sad. But in the days prior to having to put my dog down, he wouldn't come back inside after peeing, but instead would go to the far corner of the yard and just lay down, despite the ground being covered in snow. I'd go get him after a few minutes of course. I guess it's just some canine instinct to wander off from the pack before dying. I used to have a dog, and I never knew reverse sneezing was a thing until one day she just started doing this hawking noise. It sounded like a person trying to snort while having a cold. It's harmless, but it was a weird thing to have happen. If you put a jalapeno pepper in front of my cat, she will sniff it, lick it, make chirping noises, and joyously roll around on it. When I was a kid, we had this big area rug in our living room. One day our dog kept trying to lift the edge with his nose like he was trying to get under it. As soon as anyone walked in the room he would stop like he got caught doing something bad. So one day, I spied on him from the stairs and realized what he was trying to do. As he lifted the edge of the rug, he started rolling it up. He kept going until the rug was completely rolled up. He then proceeded to get on it and hump the living shit out of that thing like it was his last day on earth. I busted out laughing which spooked him and he darted out of the room. My cat will play fetch with twist ties. And my 80-pound dog is scared of the cat. Turns out cats can jump really high. Like my cat was able to jump from the ground to the top of our 2-meter-tall fridge. Problem is she doesn't know how to get back down. Edit, I once got home from work and found my cat standing on the curtain railing a shelf away from the fridge, slightly higher off the ground. She was meowing desperately as she didn't know how to get back down. My dog used to wear my bras. He's a little Shih Tzu mix, for reference. I was a little lazy and would leave my bra on the floor occasionally. Then, I would be minding my own business and find my dog underneath my bed, stuck in my bra. Only happened a few times, so I would just take it off and let him free. This culminated in me and my family coming home and my dog running down the stairs to greet us, wearing my bra. He only did it with one kind, and eventually stopped when I stopped wearing it, and keeping my room clean. At home we have a resident population of dolphins in the backyard saltwater estuary. Some neighborhood dogs swim with the dolphins. It's interesting to watch how they interact. The dogs will see the dolphins and bark, and sometimes the dolphins will be head down at work catching fish, and the dogs won't go in, and sometimes they play swim chassis with the dogs. Anyway, my dog doesn't do anything, he is lazy.